The sky cracked open before we even reached the corner of Maple Street, and that is when I knew this was not going to be a normal morning. My name is Eli, and every single school day for the past year, I have walked my neighbor Nira to school. Nira is not from Earth. She is Verith, one of the few alien kids who ended up living in our town after her people made contact with us. She uses a hover chair because her legs cannot handle our gravity the way mine can. Most days, that is just a normal fact about her, like how I need glasses to read the board, or how she cannot eat chocolate without turning a strange shade of blue. That morning started like any other. I knocked on her door, she rolled out with her bag already hanging off the side of her chair, and we started down the sidewalk together, arguing about whether her planet's version of pizza was better than ours. She said Earth pizza was too soft. I said her pizza smelled like burnt rubber. It was a stupid argument. It was our argument. We had it almost every week. But today, she was quiet. Too quiet. I noticed it around the time we passed the old bakery, the one with the cracked window that never got fixed. Nira kept glancing up at the sky, like she was checking for rain, except there was not a single cloud up there. Her fingers were tapping against the armrest of her chair in a fast, nervous rhythm I had never seen before. "You okay?" I asked her. She did not answer right away. Her comm device buzzed on her wrist, and she quickly turned it off without even looking at the screen. "Nira," I said again, "something's wrong." "It's nothing," she said, but her voice cracked in the middle of the word nothing, and I knew right then that it was definitely not nothing. We kept walking. The street was filling up with the usual morning noise: cars, a dog barking somewhere, a group of younger kids racing each other to the bus stop. Normal sounds. Normal Tuesday sounds. And then, without any warning at all, the light around us changed color. I looked up, and the sky was tearing itself apart. It did not look like clouds, and it did not look like a storm. It looked like someone had taken the blue sky and pulled it apart at the seams, revealing something dark and massive behind it. Something with lights blinking along its surface, like 1,000 tiny eyes opening at once. The shape kept growing bigger, sliding out from that tear in the sky, silent and enormous, blotting out the sun over half the town. People on the street stopped walking, cars slowed down. Somewhere behind us, a woman screamed, and then another voice shouted for everyone to get inside, and just like that, the quiet morning turned into complete chaos. I grabbed the handle of Nira's chair without even thinking about it. "We need to move," I said. But Nira was not moving. She was staring straight up at the ship with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Not confusion. Not even fear exactly. It looked like dread, the kind of dread you feel when something you have been running from finally catches up to you. "She's here," Nira whispered. "Who's here?" I asked. Before she could answer, a smaller shape broke off from the enormous ship above us and came shooting down toward the street, moving fast and then slowing at the last second, landing directly in the middle of the road, less than 50 feet from where we stood. It was smooth and silver, shaped like a teardrop, and it did not make a single sound as it touched down. A door on its side opened. I remember thinking, stupidly, that this was probably the moment I was supposed to run. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to grab Nira's chair and pull her away as fast as I could. But I did not run. I do not know why. Maybe because Nira looked more scared in that moment than I had ever seen her, and running away from her had never once crossed my mind. Not that day, and not any day before it. Figures stepped out of the shuttle, tall, elegant, dressed in clothing that shimmered faintly, even in the daylight. They moved like they had never once in their lives worried about anything. At the center of them walked a woman, or something like a woman, with silver eyes and a posture so straight it looked painful. She did not walk toward the crowd. She walked directly toward us, toward Nira. "Eli," Nira said quietly, "you need to step back." "No," I said. I do not know where that word came from. It just came out of me. flat and certain, like my mouth had decided something before my brain caught up. The woman with silver eyes stopped a few feet away from us. Up close, she was even more unsettling, her skin faintly glowing under the morning light, her expression completely unreadable. The people behind her, the ones I now guessed were some kind of royal guard, shifted uncomfortably at the sight of Nira's hover chair, like it embarrassed them just to look at it. "Nira?" the woman said, and her voice carried a strange, layered sound, like two voices speaking at once. "You have hidden yourself well." "I did not hide," Nira said, and I noticed her voice was shaking now, but she did not look away. "I left. You are needed at home. This is my home now." One of the guards behind the woman made a small sound of disapproval, glancing again at Nira's chair, at the way her legs rested still and unmoving against the frame. I saw the way Nira's shoulders curled inward at that look, like she was trying to make herself smaller, and something in my chest went hot and tight. "Excuse me," I said. Every single one of them turned to look at me. All of them, including the woman with the silver eyes, like they had genuinely forgotten I was standing there. "You can't just show up and stare at her like that," I said. My voice was not as steady as I wanted it to be, but I kept talking anyway. "She's my friend. She walks to school with me every single day. She's smarter than half my class, and she can out-argue any teacher I've ever had, and none of that has anything to do with her legs, so maybe stop looking at her like something's wrong with her." Nobody said anything for a moment. The guards looked at each other, then at the woman, clearly waiting for some kind of reaction, like they expected her to be angry, or maybe to have me removed, or worse. Instead, the woman tilted her head slightly, studying me the way you might study a puzzle you did not expect to find on your doorstep. "You are not afraid," she said. "Should I be?" I asked. "Most beings are," she said. "I am the ruler of an empire that spans more star systems than your planet has ever counted. Soldiers kneel when my ship enters their sky." "Cool," I said. "I still think you're being rude to my friend." I heard one of the guards make a strange choking sound, like he was trying not to laugh, or maybe trying not to panic. I honestly could not tell which. The woman's silver eyes stayed fixed on me, and for the first time since she had stepped off that shuttle, something in her expression shifted, just slightly, like a crack forming in a very old wall. "Do you know why she left?" the woman asked me. "No," I admitted. "She never told me." "Because among my people, a body that does not move the way it should is seen as a flaw, a weakness. Some believe it means she is unfit to carry any title, unfit to stand among her own family. I came to correct that mistake and bring her home to face what she was born to face." I looked at Nira. She was staring down at her hands, gripping the armrests of her chair so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. I thought about every single day we had walked to school together, every argument about pizza, every time she had helped me study for a test I was about to fail, every joke she had made that I still did not fully understand because it only worked in her language. "She's not broken," I said. "She's just Nira, and where I come from, we don't decide someone's worth by how fast they can walk." The silence that followed felt like it stretched on forever. The guards were completely still now, watching their queen, waiting for some signal. Nira looked up at me, her eyes wide, like she could not quite believe what I had just said out loud to an actual empress. The woman studied me for a long moment. Then, slowly, she turned to look at Nira, really look at her, the way you look at someone when you finally decide to actually see them. "You chose this place," the queen said. "Yes," Nira answered, her voice steadier now. "And this human speaks for you without being asked." "He does that a lot," Nira said, and for the first time that morning, a small nervous smile crossed her face. The queen was quiet for a long moment, looking between the two of us. Then she straightened, and something in her posture softened just slightly, enough that even I could notice it. "Perhaps," she said, There is something to be learned from a world where loyalty does not depend on how someone walks. She turned back to her guards and said something quick, in a language I did not understand, and they immediately began retreating toward the shuttle, though a few of them kept glancing back at us with expressions I could not read. The Queen lingered a moment longer, looking at Nira one last time. "I will not force you to return," she said, "but I will return, someday, to see what kind of person this place has helped you become." And then she turned and walked back into the shuttle without another word. The door closed behind her, and moments later, the small ship rose off the street, joining the massive vessel above us, which folded itself back through that strange tear in the sky until the blue returned to normal, as if none of it had ever happened at all. The street stayed frozen for a few seconds after that, everyone staring up at the empty sky, unsure if it was really over. Then, slowly, life started moving again. Cars began honking. People pulled out their phones. Somewhere behind us, a teacher was shouting at a group of stunned students to get back on the sidewalk. Nira let out a breath I did not realize she had been holding. "You just talked back to the most powerful woman in the galaxy," she said. "Yeah," I said. "I noticed that too, actually." "You're insane." "Probably," I said. "We're going to be really late for school now." She laughed, a real laugh, the kind I had not heard from her in weeks, and we started walking again, past the bakery with the cracked window, past the corner where the world had almost changed forever, back toward the ordinary, boring, wonderful thing we called school. My heart was still pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, but for the first time that morning, Nira's shoulders were relaxed, her fingers no longer tapping nervously against her chair. Whatever came next, whatever the Queen decided to do with the rest of her endless empire, I figured we would deal with it when it happened. For now, we had a math test to get to, and honestly, after facing down an intergalactic ruler before 8 in the morning, a math test did not seem all that scary anymore.